Hey guys, it's Gus. And yesterday we did a meme video of trying to get a Devout Cleric, the top damage dealer on the damage board in Master Demon Web Pits, and it actually worked. And it was a lot harder than we suspected. But the run had no relevance whatsoever to real gameplay. It was a complete joke. But a lot of people have been curious what we did to make that happen. So I'll share everything I know. So first of all, the team completely buffed out. All the other four players buffed me. It was they were all running everything they possibly could. Like I was the only person using a magnitude mount power. Everybody else was using debuff mount powers. But I used the crit helm. My big concern was I wasn't going to be able to proc this helmet because you have to hit or heal for at least 10% of your hit points. The problem is I didn't know if how bad my damage and how bad my heals would be, but it worked really good. I was very impressed with the uptime. And that same concern we had applied to the chest piece that gives combat advantage and accuracy. This had a very high uptime. Now, to improve the uptime of these two pieces, what I did is try to lower my hit points. For example, I'm not a male metallic dragonborn, I'm just a dragonborn. So I didn't have to get that 3% hit point gain. And then also, I didn't get any of the campaign boons that give hit points. And even though I could have used a Ratatouille possibly or something else to give me stats, I didn't because I didn't want the extra 20,000 hit points that the guild food gives. So I had to minimize my hit points. I used the Forte gloves. They're not great, but we don't have a lot of options in the game right now. Now this may look weird, but I went Lionheart weapons, and everybody else went MC weapons. So with the other four players, I got an 8% outgoing damage increase, but I also got an 8% healing output increase. Combined with these weapons, that's an extra 15.5% damage and 15.5% heals. And I know the heals weren't that great, but uh, they could have been worse, and these definitely helped. Now, my first intention was to use Sacred Flame as my at will because it's 20 more magnitude, and that's a lot when you're doing such small damage like this tune was. But I had to change to Scattering Light because whenever you had more than one enemy in a spot, you wanted to use Scattering Light. And more often than not, there was multiple enemies up. So this was my go-to at will. Uh, I also used the registered iron leggings. I just needed more damage. I used 4 debuff artifacts. That's, I guess it is a debuff. It's not so good though. But they all give offensive stats. They're all 1200 item level. We went the Mythalar set because the damage seems small, but for this tune that's doing such small amount of damage, this is a big damage game. We couldn't figure out anything else that would actually be better as a set to use. Like we cannot use the new MC Shroomwoods or Cinderlent because we're not using encounters enough to have that accuracy uptime. We went with the two MTOS rings, the crit strike and combat advantage rings. Still went with the combat advantage shirt and the AP hatred pants with the offensive stats. Um, the stats are gonna look janky because I took all the enhancements, all the collars, all the insignias off. I built this tune just for this one run, so I'll probably never use it again. So the stats look off right now, but we put all our points into dexterity, intelligence. I know most healers probably don't do that. They put them into wisdom, which is great. But the point on this was to do damage. The healing time, I don't know how bad the healing word was. If I'm guessing, the healing word is actually pretty high compared to most decked out healers. I'd have to ask them what theirs is. They were around 200k a tick, if I'm not mistaken. So in this, when we had everything up, power was capped, accuracy was at 84.5, combat advantage was capped, crit strike was capped, crit severity was capped. Um, the outgoing healing was at 62%. I know that's very low. You're missing about 30% outgoing healing. If your other four stats are capped, according to a Math Guru I asked on PC, they said if your outgoing healing's at 60% as opposed to 90%, your healing only goes down 13%. And I was like, I think that's fine. I think in the current state of the game, if you have a maxed out healer and you lose 13% of your heals, you will still be able to effectively do 99% of the content in this game effectively. It's very team dependent though, because if you're playing newer content you've never ran before, people are going to die more often, people are going to hit more often, and they're not going to know how to avoid mechanics more often. So you want the most heals you can, but as you start getting more and more experience and the group knows the content better, you can start losing some outgoing healing stuff and getting some team buff stuff. And the reason that sparked the interest to make this tune is this the devout cleric was that scattering light nerf would have been before that. This tune would have done so much more damage because of that. Not only from the scattering light, instead of doing it 1 a second, you'd be doing like 3 a second. So that's like an extra 160 magnitude or so a second you could get from that. And you could also do that 1700 magnitude again every minute, twice a minute instead of one. So that would have been a big damage boost for this build. But I was really curious because what we're hearing a lot about clerics is they're amazing healers, but they have no utility. And my suspicion is, and this is the suspicion which is going to make me actually run this tune again. I'm going to swap everything over and actually run content with it. Is that the Devout can actually contribute, has utility, because besides heals, it may be able to do some damage as well. I could be wrong. I know nothing about healing. That was the first dungeon I ever ran yesterday, and was probably going to be my last, but now I'm very curious. So, um, Dex intelligence, 90, 84.5, 90, 90, 90, 90, 62. Enhancements, I took them all off. These were all in power, though. Power, power, power. Power, 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 power. All 9 of them. Because the problem is with devouts, I don't know about the other healing classes. I know nothing about healing. Is their forte does not give them power. It gives them I don't know, divinity or something like that. That's how much I know. So I needed as much power as I could get. And so I went with the Devil's Precision Rage of Flames. I took off Rage of Flames for the Spider Slayer at the last boss. I ran with the Lightning Flash enchantment and the movement speed. Powers, all the healers are probably gonna be laughing at me. I used these two at wills. Uh, I wanted to use Sacred Flame on single target, but most of the time there's single target. There was another enemy there. And Sacred Flame, you can dodge or move quickly from Scattering Light. This is just so much easier to use, especially if you've never played the class before. And all I really know is HR. So using Sacred Flame for me was a big challenge. A skill issue, right? I was using Scattering Light the most often. For the encounters, this one's a nice encounter, 650 magnitude, and it casts really fast and super far away, 80 feet. I mean, I think HRs can only attack 60 feet. Maybe it is 80 feet. But this is a great encounter. It would be even greater if the cooldown was like 8 seconds, right? I did not use Divine Glow. The reason, because on the last boss, I was trying to go to Bastion during the heal check, and I was on cooldown. I messed it all up. But I was using my other two as Healing Word and Exaltation, because Exaltation was buffing my damage and healing considerably. I think if it works, and I don't know if they work. My main daily I was using was Guardian of Faith. If you ever saw me dodge in real quick, it was either to use Dragonfire Breath or Guardian of Faith. This is a nice 1700 magnitude is big. Yeah. And then Hollow Ground, I think I used it twice. I think I used it at Sunfall on the second boss. And then I think I used it at the Axe on the third boss. I can't remember. I do remember using it on the second boss, though. Again, more laughing from all the clerics watching this. I use Pilgrim's Light, increases your damage by 5% when there are no party members nearby. I just built this tune. I did not test a single thing. So I don't know what they mean by nearby. I don't know if that means 5 feet or 50 feet. I don't know. So I don't know what the uptime is on this, but I used it. And then I use this, increases your outgoing healing by 25% when your divinity is full. Well, the great news is with this build, the divinity is always full because you're only using um, healing word like every 15 seconds or so. I mean, so I guess there's other reasons to use other heals. I just don't know how to heal. Big skill issue. No idea what I'm doing. These are all wrong. The only thing I think that probably mattered was this one increases your damage by 10%, and that goes down as your divinity decreases. And then this one, I think it works. What it does is it does a heal over time when you use this daily. And this was the day I was using most often. I don't even know what these last two feats mean. I didn't even read them. I was like, what? I'm already confused. One interesting to note about the Devout is they get 10% accuracy, and that's up as your stamina goes down, that amount goes down. So that was really nice. I don't know what any of this stuff means. Boons, same old, same old. I had to get 60 boon points because I wanted to get these top ones. I don't even know if this one works, Blessed Advantage. I was thinking I could get a little heal over that on people on the team. I don't know. I used Forte and I used Recharge. Damn, I should have used the AP gain, but I don't think I used it because I had plenty of time to get AP back. I'm so used to playing HR where we don't have our daily back a lot of the time. Everything, all the other points went into all of the offensive stats. No healing, no defense, but I had to have Marathon Runner. This is probably the best boon in the game. Companions, I used the Chilton Hunter, which is the same as the Green Scale Bowman on the single target. And then on AoE, I used Regis. I used Batiri, Book Imp, and Utility, Minsk, Neverwinter Knight, and Raptor. Uh, what we had to use here, I had to use Potency to get the extra 7.5% power. Yeah, power is a big deal. It's really hard to get on a cleric. Well, I don't know about the Arbiter. I've known nothing about it. But on the Devout, it's very hard to get that power. I got all three comp. These took a couple days to get. It was just 2 different weeks, but I started this on like a Friday, so I was able to get it like 2 days later. So the ideal chain sword knot, the companion times three, which is accuracy and combat advantage, which are two stats that I don't think any respectable devout would ever recommend to anybody. This is a total meme build. Mount powers, Wicked Lich. I don't know if this is doing as much as tunnel vision. I don't know because tunnel vision is affected by intelligence, and this one is not. Equip power, I used rapid accuracy because I needed the accuracy because I wasn't using the guild food. If I was using the guild food, I would have done that and then went ferocity here. I had the only collar difference I made for this build is I usually run the encounter collar, but I made an at will mythic collar just for this build because most of the damage is coming from your at will. So I made the at will collar and then I used the crit sev, the same ones we all use. Um, the insignia bonuses I had sorry, I Mender's Covenant, Executioner's Covenant, Assassin's Covenant. I did not use Artificer's Persuasion because I'm not really using encounters that much. So I used Gladiator's Guile and Warlord's Inspiration to boost the companion's damage. I think that's it for what we did. The team ran every debuff you could think of. They all ran MC. They ran all the buff mounts to buff my damage, like the Eclipse Lion, the Swarm, and the Rex. And I forget what the fourth one was. I don't think it was Pegasus, because Pegasus only buffs you based on your roll. So for me being the roll for this class is healer, so it only buffed my outgoing healing, not my outgoing damage. So it would have been useless. I forget what we used as the fourth mount. And they all used, vulnerability for comp enhancements, dulled senses, whatnot. Uh, they all used the Grace Ring, APOC set, Mythalar set, Vistani set. Everything, it's like it was almost set up like a speed run or, a day one trial group where everybody was set up meticulously for an end, to have the best chance of success. And that's what this group did. They all had to change around a lot of stuff for this build that they would never do, and they all ran debuff companions as well. We had Dritz, Tutor, Black Deck Scorpion, and I believe a Portobello, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Portobello. Well, there you go. If you got any questions, so I am going to run this again because I'm very curious because we've all done an M toss, and there's when you look at the Pain Giver, we don't have this on. We can't test this on PS4. All we have is the Pain Giver to test. So, normally the healers and tanks are around 70 mil, 50 mil, 100 mil. Never really 100 mil on a normal run without any wipes. Most of the time, I'm guessing they're between 50 and 70 mil. So I'm very curious if I can run, a build like this very similarly, but focus on healing, and then when the heals are up, do some damage. If that would, add any meaningful damage to the group. The first goal is I have to keep the group alive, right? I have to keep them alive. And if I can do that and contribute meaningful damage, you know, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's something to look into. Maybe that's the Devout Cleric's team utility. We're not giving group buffs, where everybody's outgoing damage goes up by 20% or whatever. There's not a lot of group buffs. Well, there are group buffs, Vistani, Set, and whatnot, but those aren't class specific. Class specific. The Devout doesn't really have a lot of class specific stuff, but what it does have is 15% outgoing damage and 10% accuracy, and possibly you could make a healer build that does enough to keep the group alive, but still have some leftover firepower to do some damage to some enemies and help with the burn. More to follow. I may run this tune again in the near future to see if that works or not. Stay classy, Neverwinter. See you soon.